the best trained weapon really is the best trained operator. So you can have the best equipment in the world, but if you don't know what it can do and fight to its full potential, and your mechanics and supply people to also support it, it's no good to you. I'm Glenn Miller. I was born in Brantford, Ontario, and I served with the Royal Canadian Horse Artillery and the Royal Canadian Artillery. So I ended up going to Germany because my stepfather was in the military, and he was posted to Europe as part of NATO's commitment. An attack on any one of those partners is an attack on all. That's the premise of NATO. And that was primarily against the Warsaw Pact and Russia. So it was a form of detente. And that's why we ended up in Europe. Our family went over. I was 12 years old, starting high school in grade 9. And I did all my high school in grade 9. So certainly as a student in Canada, you hear about European history, you read about it, or I had the opportunity to live it as well. Our high school itself was an old SS barracks, and we actually had wooden gun racks in the halls, which we try to sit in as a cubby hole because there's not a lot happening there. It was quite an adventure, not knowing what to expect. I found out just by going to the play park, there's about 6 other families in our small village. That was during the summertime frame. About come September when we went to school, that's where you kind of got a better sense that you were not the only Canadian in Germany. It was the largest Canadian population outside Canada. It's about 15,000 Canadians between Lahr and Baden. You got to see a lot of green buildings, hangars, tanks, helicopters, planes that you don't normally expose to see. So you got a better sense of the bigger picture of why you were there and the equipment used. And I do remember as part of the equipment of NATO in the Cold War, they would have on occasion equipment land in to show kids what the tools were. And we had an American Cobra attack helicopter. And I'd seen this, but to actually see it firsthand, you know it's very long, but it's only shoulder wide. It was so very narrow, which I thought was kind of pretty cool. And for any young student, seeing the helicopter land and take off from 40 feet away is always fascinating. By joining the Canadian Forces, my biggest decision was being influenced by the Cold War. Only because I had an opportunity to join the Royal Canadian Dragoon Cadet Corps, and I spent 4 years doing that, and that had shaped my reason to really join, because I thought it was exciting, and I wanted to drive a tank. I wanted to be involved with tanks because that's what that particular unit was involved in. However, when we went to join, that wasn't available at the time, so I ended up in the artillery. So this is a training aid to help us understand the control panel inside the radar. And during my initial training, we had a couple American A-10 planes providing support for artillery, how to call our airplanes and do their fire with bombs or rockets or guns. So it's about 2 o'clock and we see a blip on the radar, so this is too easy. Obviously, I think I have very good equipment. A very humbling experience for me was, as the blip got closer, then in theory I could push the button and engage it with my guns. Just before I started to track that blip, I heard the turbofan of the plane. And it didn't make sense to me, because he's 10 kilometers away. Well, he was the sacrificial lame duck to fool me, the operator. His wingman went in low, and it would have pulled the trigger 10,000 yards away. So I was already dead. So that was a very humbling experience, but one you never forgot. My first course was on a 40 millimeter anti-aircraft gun. It was actually made during World War II. So it wasn't exactly state-of-the-art at the time. Primarily a larger machine gun. The range at that time was 2 kilometers for anti-aircraft. Part of Canada's commitment, we train as if we're going to war. And so the TAM is a tactical air meet of different NATO countries, and they just happen to use that base as a staging area. So there's a variety of different NATO-based countries with their various different aircraft using the base. Our specific role there was the protection of the airfield from attack. So we had one 28 airfield air defense battery at that time, consisting of roughly 30 people, was protecting the entire airfield. NATO's a defensive measure, but if they were to attack first, we're talking minutes of airtime from their base in East Russia, or correction, East Germany, to West Germany, where I was stationed. And so there might be 30 aircraft that would take off all at once to swarm us. Some would get picked off along the way at different levels, but at the end of the day, you could have 20 aircraft swarming the base, At that time, we had the 40 millimeter Boffins and the blowpipe missiles, and that was it. And it wasn't quite what was required to do the job. Some of my most memorable experiences are having the ability to brief the Minister of National Defence on my role and what we could or couldn't do primarily. I didn't have any illusion of surviving the first air attack. And it's because of the equipment. So he was a little shocked at that. I do remember one time we got our new anti-aircraft guns, which were designed for an airfield, but Canada's trying to maximize its role. So now we're trying to drag it all over the countryside, which isn't what it was designed for. We got these brand new guns, but the trucks using them couldn't tow them properly. We'd even get them stuck on the airfield because they didn't have the towing capacity. So we're in a farmer's field, and this German lady in a nice wooden pitchfork came out and said, "Get out, get out, get out," and was threatening me with the pitchfork, which I kind of laughed, but she was pretty serious. So it was kind of funny. So the morale during my tour in Germany was quite high because you're Canadian and you're working and living with Canadians and their families, so you're a very tight-knit group. Actually, a lot of the gate guards for the base were wives. That was just one of the jobs that was available. And so a lot of the wives were employed on the base. And so you got to see them at both the work function and also social functions. Our particular trade, there was so few of us, it was an expectation, a reasonable expectation, that we'd spend 2/3 of our entire career in Germany because that's our job. During the Cold War, as the tensions got better and the Berlin Wall came down, the Canadian government decided to close Ladenbaden, and so I had done one tour, knowing I was expecting to do many, many more tours, and that opportunity was gone. So the medals I was presented during my career, starting over here on the right is the Canadian Forces Decoration, and that's after 12 years of continuous good service. And after another 10 years, you get this bar. And if you did another 10 years, you get a second bar or additional bars. This one here is the Canadian Diamond Jubilee Medal. And this one here is the NATO Medal for the former Yugoslavia. Now, had I stayed 3 more days, we were in transition, I would have been entitled to another medal that followed this one, but I was sent home 3 days prior. Remembrance means a lot to me as a soldier and as a father and as a person who's involved going to schools and trying to impress that to other youth. To be able to impress upon Canadian students and the education system that although Canada has not really been to war in any great extent since Korea, really, when Canada goes in the future and we go somewhere else, wherever that might be, you never know who's impacted. So have some empathy and compassion and care.